81 million sign-in attempts in about 2 weeks from one campaign. 78 accounts taken over. And a lot of the companies behind those accounts had MFA switched on. Not on paper, enforced by a policy somebody sat down and configured on purpose. Nobody's phone buzzed. This is The Pulse. Cybersecurity signal in 5 minutes. I'm Jane. A question went around this year. It shows up on an insurance renewal, on a customer's security questionnaire, on an auditor's control list. Do you have multi-factor authentication? You said yes, and you were telling the truth. Here is what happened in the middle of June to a few dozen companies that gave that same answer. Huntress tracked that campaign against Microsoft Cloud accounts across 2 weeks. Many of the businesses behind the accounts that fell had MFA, enforced through a conditional access policy. The attackers never triggered a prompt, not because they beat one, because the door they came through doesn't have one. There is an old sign-in path that OAuth still carries, and that the newest version of OAuth deprecates. It takes a username and a password and hands them straight over. No second step, no approval on anybody's phone. The flow predates the idea that there should be one. The conditional access policy covered the front door. It did not cover that path. So the password was the whole test. And there is an entire category of software whose only job is answering a password test a few million times an hour until one comes back right. Here is the part that should bother a founder. Nothing broke. The policy did exactly what it was configured to do. The product did exactly what it was sold to do. The gap was never inside either of them. It was in between. And here is a separate number, with a different scope, which is why it gets its own breath. Across the first half of this year, Huntress measured password spraying up 155 times over. Not in that campaign. Everywhere. Come back to the questionnaire. Everybody who asks about your identity controls asks the same thing. The insurer asks whether MFA is enabled. The customer's vendor form asks whether it is enforced on administrative accounts. The SOC 2 control asks whether it is configured and whether you can evidence it. 3 parties, 3 formats. 1 question with a yes or no answer. Not one of them asks whether anything can still authenticate without it. Those are 2 different questions. And only one of them would have mattered in June. The first one can be answered off a settings page. The second one takes somebody going and finding out. Yes describes something a company bought and switched on. That is real, and it is worth having. It just is not the same as knowing where your identity boundary actually runs. That second answer is not on a control list. It is in the paths nobody wrote down. The legacy protocol still enabled on the tenant, because turning it off might break something. The exemption somebody added during a migration 2 years ago and never took back out. The integration that signs in with a fixed credential, because a fixed credential is all it supports. None of that shows up as a no on a form. All of it was in scope in June. And here is why that list exists. MFA arrived as a project. It had a start date, a rollout plan, a completion email, and then it was done. Nobody scheduled the part where you go back and ask what did not get covered. The project closed, the box got checked, and the form said yes. The next form is already in somebody's inbox, and it is going to ask the first question. Your company will answer it honestly, and your company will be right. Somebody in there should be asking the second one, and nobody is going to send a form for it. So, one question this week. You have told customers, insurers, and an auditor that you have MFA. All three believed you. One of them priced your coverage on it. If a single sign-in path never asked, which of the three do you call first, and what exactly do you tell them? The full edition is at signal.echocyber.io. I'm Jane. More signal, less noise.